Can you please make a Scuba Science episode that helps me with reducing my air consumption? It's the most commonly requested episode for Scuba Science, so let's do it. Before we dive into this topic, allow me to say one thing, because while I understand everybody's need, and rightly so, to reduce their air consumption, which is ultimately what makes you a better diver, a YouTube video can never truly achieve that. The only way to really achieve that is to find a good diving instructor who is willing to spend time with you in the water. Someone who's willing to optimize your weights, help you streamline your equipment, and go over proper breathing techniques with you. I'll do my best to break down the basic principles in this video, especially if you're an entry-level diver. This can be very useful, but make sure to seek out proper instruction, as this video is not a substitute for that. Your air consumption has almost nothing to do with your lung size, but it has everything to do with metabolic demand and stress. So in this episode, we're going to look at what air consumption actually measures, what factors secretly increase gas consumption underwater, and how, as a scuba diver, you can actually decrease your gas consumption without adding bigger cylinders, better scuba regulators, or crazy breathing tricks. At the end, it's all about a little bit of scuba science. This episode has been supported by ADEX Ocean Festival in Singapore. ADEX Singapore is the largest scuba diving trade show in the Asia Pacific region, and you can find me there from April 10 to 12 at Suntec in Singapore. I'll be presenting there, but I'll also be hanging around and be available to chat with people just like I did last year, and I would love for you to join. If you're a scuba diver or a scuba diving professional and you are in the Asia Pacific region, consider flying down to Singapore April 10 to 12 for ADEX Ocean Festival. When divers talk about air consumption, they are really talking about respiratory gas usage per minute. In physiology, this is closely linked to your metabolic rate, the amount of oxygen your body needs to produce energy. Your regulator isn't wasting gas, your tank isn't leaking. It's simply about your body's need for energy. With every breath, oxygen diffuses into the bloodstream and carbon dioxide diffuses out. That oxygen is used by your cells to produce energy. The harder your body works, the more oxygen it consumes. It is that simple. And because scuba equipment delivers gas on demand, higher oxygen demand means higher gas consumption. So reducing air consumption ultimately comes down to two things. Either your body somehow needs to burn less oxygen, or you need to use less energy in moving yourself through the water. And both of those are largely controlled by workload. Many divers assume that lung size or depth are the main factor in how much gas they actually use. And of course, depth is a factor. As we saw in our episode about Boyle's Law, the deeper we dive, the denser the gas we breathe, and therefore the more gas we will actually consume. But in practice, physical effort plays a much higher role in gas consumption. Common sources of unnecessary workload include swimming against a current, increased drag due to bad equipment streamlining, poor trim and body positioning, being significantly overweighted, and constant buoyancy corrections. All of these increase the mechanical workload your body has to perform, and reducing every single one of these is greatly going to improve your oxygen use efficiency. This is why a relaxed diver at 30 meters 100 feet could possibly use much less gas than an overexerted diver at 10 meters 30 feet. Reducing air consumption often starts with the most basic principle: stop fighting in the water. Stress also plays a major role in air consumption. When your brain detects danger, your body activates the sympathetic nervous system, often referred to as the fight or flight response. This response will increase your heart rate, your breathing rate, muscle tension, and oxygen demand. You don't necessarily need to be stressed out of your mind for this to happen. Even mild psychological stress can trigger this response. Common triggers include low visibility, cold temperatures, unfamiliar equipment, task loading, and of course, unstable buoyancy. From an evolutionary perspective, this response prepares the body for an intense physical response. Underwater, this often translates into rapid breathing and inefficient movement, both of which increase gas consumption. Managing stress is therefore one of the most effective ways to manage and reduce air consumption. Again, you do not have to be in extreme stress for this response to take place, even without you knowing it. And of course, one of the biggest stress reducers underwater is good buoyancy control. Poor buoyancy dramatically increases workload underwater. A diver who is continuously correcting their position in the water is of course doing continuous physical effort. Every correction requires muscle activity. Finning to regain your position, inflating and deflating your BCD, and compensating for small unwanted depth changes. Individually, these actions may seem small, but when added up over the course of a 1-hour dive, these amount to large amounts of energy unnecessarily expended and large amounts of gas unnecessarily consumed. Efficient buoyancy will change all of this completely, because a neutrally buoyant diver will remain at depth constantly without significant effort. It avoids constant finning, and the diver will simply use small lung volume changes to affect their position in the water, as opposed to constantly inflating and deflating their BCD. Instead of constantly and actively fighting gravity and buoyancy, the diver is simply stabilized in the water column. And again, less physical work of course means less oxygen demand by the body. Another major factor is hydrodynamic drag. Water is roughly 800 times denser than air, which means drag forces increase rapidly with poor body positioning. A diver who swims vertically presents a much larger surface area to the water. This increases hydrodynamic drag, making every movement much more energy intense. Other contributors to hydrodynamic drag include low-hanging fins, poorly streamlined equipment, such as dangling gauges and hoses, and bulky or unbalanced equipment configurations. So divers who move more effortlessly are not necessarily stronger, they've simply optimized everything about their technique and their equipment configuration to glide through the water. Breathing technique is often misunderstood. A common myth, for instance, is that slow breathing automatically saves gas, but slow and shallow breathing actually builds up carbon dioxide and in the longer term during the dive actually increases your body's demand for oxygen. In reality, what really matters is efficient ventilation of your body. Your body regulates breathing primarily based on the production of carbon dioxide, not on the lack of oxygen. If you breathe shallowly or even hold your breath between breathing cycles, sometimes called skip breathing, carbon dioxide will begin to accumulate in the bloodstream. Elevated CO2 levels stimulate the respiratory center in the brain, creating a strong urge to breathe. And this often leads to more rapid and inefficient breathing later on in the dive. So skip breathing is absolutely not the way to go. Instead, efficient breathing in the water should be relaxed, deep, slow, and purposeful. This allows the lungs enough time to exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide efficiently. And of course, as always in scuba diving, never hold your breath. Incorrect weighting can certainly also add to increased gas consumption during the dive. When a diver carries too much weight, more gas is required to inflate their BCD to achieve neutral buoyancy. Buoyancy changes also become larger and faster with more gas exchange in the BCD, and overall stability greatly decreases. This in turn is going to force the diver to make more frequent corrections with their breathing or with their finning. All those small adjustments then require more muscle activity, which in turn increases oxygen demand from the body. So proper weighting simplifies the entire system. You should have learned in your entry-level course how to conduct a proper buoyancy check, but trust the science on this, wearing too much weight on the scuba dive greatly reduces efficiency across the board. With correct weight, your BCD should contain minimal air so that you only have to make minimal adjustments when they are required. And again, the stability that results from that is going to greatly decrease your body's demand for oxygen and therefore your gas consumption. Can you make a scuba science video on how to improve my air consumption? That's what this was, and at the end of the day you have to ask yourself, when was the last time I conducted a buoyancy check, and am I diving with the optimal amount of weight? When I dive, do I only make minimal adjustments to my equipment and to my BCD? Am I in proper trim so that I am balanced to be horizontal, and is my equipment streamlined enough to reduce drag? And of course, above all, am I truly calm and breathing deeply and slowly? This takes practice. A video cannot fix your air consumption in one go, but constantly chasing proper trim, proper weighting, and a calm demeanor underwater over time will certainly improve your gas consumption. It's simply scuba science.